You've played an integral role in this process as well, from the beginning to the setup of the fellowship up to now. So in that entire process, what will be your comment on the type of innovations that have come up from this entire recruitment process, and also just help the audience to understand more on what are EdTech innovations?
My name is Eliud Chemweno with Mastercard Foundation. I head the EdTech ecosystem work. So to your question, and I think your question, Elizabeth, has different perspective. But allow me first to sort of provide some context, lay the ground and all that, particularly on aspects to do with inclusion and why this is important for Mastercard Foundation. The one area that our work is we operate from, or the premise that the Mastercard Foundation operates largely from, is primarily informed by this vision that everyone deserves an opportunity to learn and prosper. We mean everyone, and therefore, but when you look at that subset of group of people, when we talk about everyone, often the groups that are often left out of that are the most marginalized groups, and we talk about the rural, the young women, the people living with disabilities, the refugees and all that. So and our agenda at the foundation is clear around inclusion. So a couple of things when we think about that. And even in our program design, and we were having discussion with all our partners, and particularly within supporting the EdTech companies, the question then becomes is that how do we make sure that the EdTech companies or the supporters and the partners within this program are really looking at and supporting and advancing the whole inclusion agenda. So as we work with all our partners, the question then becomes, how do we support EdTech companies? How do we support the process? How do we strengthen them to make sure that they reach organizations or partners that are really supporting young women and people living with disability and all the communities that are displaced and all that. But how does that look like when we talk about EdTech? When we talk about inclusion, we talk about EdTech is really, the solution really has to be context. It has to be context specific. It has to be aware of the lived realities of the young people. So are we talking about low bandwidth? Are we talking about how does that provide for that? Does it have an offline capability? Even with the design and the design of the solution, what sort of examples are you even using in there? Talk about offline but low bandwidth environment, but in terms of even people living with disability, how inclusive is your design in that particular space? And also being aware sometimes of our implicit biasness in terms of some of this particular design. So it's really important and critical that as we advance this work, as we do this work, we are aware of that and ensure that the young people who access the solution, who actually most of the time are the majority. If you look at most countries, the context is similar in Uganda as in many countries where you have the majority of the young people who are in rural areas. Those who perhaps would generally not benefit from such solutions, and we need to be aware. We need to be intentional as we actually do that. And as a wrap up, one of the things that we've had to do in other countries is, being intentional. Even sort of ensuring that we have a specific sort of cohort that is focused on inclusion. So yes, this element, this phase of inclusion is extremely important for us.